Going to give a little trigger warning in case anybody wants to step out or anything. So I'll be talking about anxiety, homework, bullying and kind of negative school life and stuff. So to start off, it's important to recognise that well-being is something we all have and something that we can all work on to look after our mental health. So over time everyone can have a bad day. You can become stressed with school or with life or whatever and have a bit of anxiety, and that's normal to a certain extent. So when we're talking about mental illness then, we're usually talking about diagnosed medical disorders that have severe symptoms and a severe impact on people's life, and most of these go on for longer than a few weeks and that, and they need treatment from like professionals and medication and different things. So it's important to know what I'm talking about is my experience, and it's important to remember that we're all different, and what I experience may be very different to what someone else with bipolar anxiety could experience. So I'll paint you a little picture then of what was going on. So I'm talking about a time in my life, I think it was in first year to third year, and so this was when I had poor mental health and anxiety and stuff. I wasn't diagnosed with bipolar at the time, that's a different talk. So struggling socially and avoiding peers at school, so I had no close friends, I was avoiding all my peers. I struggled a lot with friends changing, and the transition to primary school and change. I don't like change at all, and it was too much for me to handle, and it resulted in panic attacks and stuff. And friends was a big thing as well, because it's only natural that your friends will change through school and through life, but all that became too much for me, so I avoided all my peers in school, and instead I went to talk to an SNA, and my grade crack, a grade class, and during break time, so during my school experience, I experienced a lot of bullying. So there was one case, I went through 4 years of chronic bullying from one person, and that done a lot of damage on my self-esteem and confidence, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I didn't get to highlight at the time, and it doesn't get much recognition, is the general type of bullying. So at the time, with my mental health, it was very fragile. And when I went into school, it just wasn't the one person bullying me, it was the whole like school. So you were going in and you were getting smart comments from everywhere, like, oh, he's an alien, and not sitting beside him, he's a disease. Oh, Joe, your family's out there, you'd know well to your family because they're like the dingoes from Emmerdale. It's just the type of bullying that was coming from all over, and it was all the goody two-shoe kids and everyone, so like you couldn't do anything to address it. And like that was grand, some people called it slagging or whatever, but it really isolated me and it had a major impact on my happiness at the time. And when that bully who was bullying me for 4 years, I got justice for that, but I was never able to acknowledge the actual bullying that went on with the whole year. And it still happens, I've been talking to people and it still happens in secondary school that everyone is making a laugh at each other, and there's no way to actually get justice for that. And so that was one thing. And then the anxiety I had as well. So before I got the bipolar, I suffered big time with anxiety. So it was like anxiety was driving a car, and it was like I was in the back seat and the anxiety had all the control and it just ruined my life. So it got to the point where anxiety just wasn't in my head, it was influencing my world, and it was for the negative. I was just caught in, like, my mind was constantly racing, caught in loops of negative thoughts. I'd overthink everything, running through 100 worst case scenarios, and it just impacted my life. And like I wasn't going to parties, I got a chance to go to Liverpool match, I wouldn't go because I was convinced there was a bomb in the stadium and stuff. It just impacted my everyday life, and it caused arguments as well with the people that were close to me because I was irritable at the time, short-tempered, and it was very difficult to be about because I needed help. And yeah, so the doctor would always say, like, your anxiety is like you have a little problem, like your problem starts as a balloon and you blow it up and blow it up and blow it up, and it's like a hot air balloon at the end of it. It's just the way my anxiety worked. And then going back into school as well, it was just a very negative time for me because I was struggling big time with homework. Like, homework caused me great stress. I spent hours and hours and hours trying to do my homework. And what I didn't know at the time, I was dyslexic and I had learning difficulties, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was in college at 20, and I had procrastination, and I still have procrastination. So I was staying up till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to do homework, and my parents were trying to get me to do it, and I was left crying loads of times, and it was just very bad. And then I go in the next day to the teachers, and they were giving me hassle as well, and there was more arguments than enough over that. And then it just led to school avoidance. Instead of going to school, I was going to the youth centre. And then my career guidance counsellor was doing an application for college, and they were trying to do like a little disadvantaged route into college, and she said it's easier to count the days you were in than the days you were out, because you were nearly out most of the time. So that was the little picture I'm painting. So now I'm going to go into some solutions and some tricks I kind of got over the years. So Mammy got to the approach where she knew how ill I was and she didn't care about exams anymore. She said, just do your best. And over time the stress decreased, and I done what I was able to do, and I actually enjoyed school then when there was no pressure and stuff. And then don't bottle it up. So 1 minute then. So I was going through an awful rough time, and as I was going into my bipolar phase and more severe mental illness, I kept an awful lot to myself and I didn't talk to anyone, and that actually related to like a big kind of thing. And today I'm the opposite. I still become unwell every now and again, and I get anxious and I have little episodes, but I talk about it with my family and friends, and then when I need to I will go to my mental health team and stuff. But one of the main things in secondary school was the ratting. There was an awful concept there that as a contradiction to don't bottle it up, everyone had this ratting concept where nobody's allowed to tell tales, or if you're telling tales you're getting people in trouble, like people have said, oh, you're a rat and all that shit. And I stuck to this for a while, and it had a severe negative impact on my health. So the advice I will give to myself is your health is more important than any of that, and you need to look after yourself. But then some advice I will give to parents, teachers and youth workers and stuff is the reaction to the information you're given is important too. So when I was giving out that information, I needed a listener, but I know if I said that to my father or someone else, he'd be going straight to the guards or straight to the parents, the young person's parents or the principal, and that was just escalating things for me, and that wouldn't have helped either, because I needed a listener. I didn't need a big reaction at that time. So yeah, so building on that as well is the one good adult concept. So this was very important in school. So the SNA had such an impact on my story. So the reason I went into school some days was to catch up with the SNA at lunch and have our chats. The conversations really helped, and she was the only get well card I got when I was in hospital, and she threw me a picnic the day of the leaving cert, so everyone else is going into exams and I'm going into like Coke and scones and crisps and sweets. So she really was there for me, and 8 years on now since I graduated from secondary school, and she's still there, we still have our catch up, so she's a lifelong friend. And then youth work as well. So I went into youth work when I was 12, and I'm 26 now, and I still haven't left yet. So my psychologist recommended that I go to youth work to help build my self-esteem and make friends. So this got me out of the house, it gave me a sense of purpose, and it helped me to find my voice. But it's one thing finding a voice and getting your voice heard, but most importantly, believing in what you had to say was important. Because I was like, no one would want to hear that, or that's not good enough, whatever. So in youth work, it could be me, and I wouldn't be called names, I was judged, or made a laugh off and be fully who I am. So youth work helped me trust people again, which was tough, because most of my friends, I had negative experiences. So flashing forward now, I'm doing really well in life, and coping really well with bipolar disorder and anxiety disorder. I still have episodes that I deal with. I follow my treatment plans. I go to my doctors and nurses and take meds. I done social care degree in college, I've been working in social care through youth work and disabilities and stuff, and I have a great group of family and friends, and a great social life as well. And I'm very aware that the journey is lifelong, and I'll consistently have to work on it. But yeah, that's it. Thanks, Miguel.